Right, g'day Newcastrians, welcome back to the Jetstream, the podcast where we discuss turf and all its various advantages and guises. As much as we probably end up getting diverted into a lane that we not necessarily anything to do with the game, it might be more preferable and less painful to talk about turf than what actually happened, but we'll get into that. We're going to review the second leg of the semi-final at McDonald Jones Stadium, and welcome back my fellow contributor Andy for a massive success run of games. To bore out a saying, but mate, welcome back.
Mate, 2 from 2. This is unheard of.
It is,
but
it's three's a streak, isn't it?
Yes, well, I'm sure we'll be able to keep that going, but do apologise to the listeners that I have this very early stage of the seasonal change flu going on, but we will get through that one because even half-assed is better than nothing these days.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, mate, like everyone would be aware by now, was heartbreak at McDonald Jones again. Semi-final leg 2 Saturday night. I was listening to it on Bar TV's app at work. You yourself was watching it at home?
I was watching it at home, and it was definitely an interesting game. I would have liked to have been there, but left my run a bit late. And yes, as we were chatting about before hitting the record button, which we often do for about half an hour, and then say that we need to get up tomorrow. I didn't get in, and then saw the sold out sign went up on, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday, and then didn't really put the effort into seeing if I could get a resale ticket somewhere or something like that, and watched from home instead. So hopefully contributed my little bit to the renegotiation of the broadcast deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, at the crowd ended up being 25,082, which makes it the second highest Jets crowd at McDonald Jones Stadium in an A-League game, finals or regular season. It doesn't include the LA Galaxy fixture. I can't remember what that figure was, but the 25,000 is only eclipsed by the 2018 Grand Final, and ahead, I think, by about 1,000 seats of the previous. I'm just going to quickly flick back over. Yes, that to my forum post that I put up before the game. The 2007 semi-final, also versus Sydney FC, was 24,338. So, 750 more people in the ground on the weekend. But yeah, absolutely fantastic turnout. If we didn't have the entire top tier of the Eastern Grandstand out of commission, how much higher could it have been? Although we were saying, like you mentioned before we started recording, we were having a quick chat and did mention that there did seem to be some empty seats dotted around the place. There was definitely probably maybe 30 or 40 spare seats in the away bays, and obviously we noted that some of the seats in the Western Grandstand behind the dugouts weren't sold. Obviously, they're going to be pretty much blocked out from view. So I'm assuming that's what you noticed. A couple of other spare seats dotted around the place?
I did, and I noticed that sort of on each of the hills, it looked as though the seats at the southern and northern end, it was as if the first row wasn't for sale. I don't know whether that's part of the, being that the FFA or FA or whatever they are these days control the ticketing and everything for the finals games, if they looked at it as possibly a restricted view from there, so they didn't want to have another category of ticket or anything. So, but yeah, it looked as though it was just very noticeable that for a sold out game there was entire rows there, but each to their own, I guess, and it was still a great spectacle for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go any further, I did mean to mention this last week, but because we'd gone for 90 minutes and I was running off the top of my head and didn't have any notes. I do have notes this week, but that means that I will actually remember this week to pay our respects to Chris Turner, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, local footballing identity and very well known around the Newcastle footballing circles, commentator on Bar TV and, a coach, mentor for a lot of people. Not somebody that I'd personally had met, but reading through the plethora of posts and memorials and everything else, and there was a minutes applause for him in the 57th minute of the game, I believe. And it was also mentioned by Ben Homer at the beginning of the broadcast on Paramount. Obviously, Ben had been involved with Chris during his time at Bar TV before he made the switch over to commentating at Paramount. So obviously very personal for him. And because I was also listening to the Bar TV commentary, they did spend quite a bit of time remembering Chris, CT as he was known to friends and sundry, and also had his daughters on as well to during the halftime break to have a chat about everything. And yeah, they were very heartened by and thankful to everybody for all the messages of support and all the posts that everybody had been putting up. And yeah, we'd just like to obviously, albeit a bit late, but add our respects to the chorus of respect around CT's passing. So valet, mate. I don't know if you knew of Chris or had any meetings with him at all, Andy?
No, hadn't had the privilege of meeting, but do have quite a few friends that spoke very highly of Chris as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Hear to your remarks there, Grant. So, yeah, enjoy um, what is to come. And with Chris's family, we hope that the support and love are wrapped around them as well from the people of Newcastle as well.
Yep, absolutely. You can. I think Chris's page might be public on Facebook at the moment. I'm not sure, but they did. The family did post on there that they haven't had the got the funeral arrangements confirmed yet. But yeah, you'll be able to. That I'm sure that's going to be disseminated throughout the public. So yeah, keep an eye on that. And if you're able to get along and pay your respects in person, by all means, most definitely do that. Right, so we'll move on to talking about the game now, and. Yeah, just in sort of summation before we get into the nitty-gritty, mate, it was a gripping game that went for 120 minutes plus extras and penalties. Sides couldn't be separated last week, couldn't be separated this week, and it was pretty much, the lottery of a penalty shootout that decided the game. So we've had one of the best seasons in our memories. 2018 was a fantastic season as well, but didn't get the premiership that time, but went really close and got to the grand final. But yeah, this was a season beyond our expectations. But yeah, heartbreaking to go so close, and penalty shootout was all that separated the two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we're going to go through a bit of a play by play, but I I really looked at it as that if we went to penalties, I actually thought that maybe there would be something that goes our way and we end up, really getting a good run with that, but wasn't to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into the nitty gritty and play by play and whatever else, there was, our idiom on this is we hate talking about the refs, but there was a lot of talk about the ref after this game. How obviously I'm getting the impression that it looked a lot more one-sided in the ground than it might look watching it on the telecast. Did you see it that way, or did you see that there was quite a lot of, or there was a favoritism towards one team versus another?
Oh, look, I think you know, shoot me down, but I think you obviously watch a game with, a bit of Jets coloured glasses on that you feel that things should have gone our way a bit more. I think it was pretty fair overall, but at the same time, being the fan of the team that had a few more things go against them, you could definitely look at it and go, well, maybe we didn't get enough. But I think you know, you're always going to have that. There's not a referee in the league that I think you would say necessarily seems to give things the Jets way. So it's just the way you've got to do it.
Well, it seems to be something with this referee. We have a very poor win rec. So I'm just got Stats Daddy Dave's stats for Sean Evans' record for the Jets in all competitions. We haven't won a game that he's officiated since 2019. That was March of 2019. He's refereed us for 41 games. We've won 8 of them. We've had 14 draws and 19 losses. So, like I said, the last win under him was in the round of 32 in the 2019 Australia Cup. He's officiated us 17 times since that last win in 2019. We've had 6 draws and 11 losses. Does that change your summation at all? Or is that just...
Yeah, look, that's not great, but it's still, I wouldn't want to necessarily make any accusations that it's going any particular way.
No. He's the Andy Harper of referees. He hates Newcastle. I don't know. I'm just posing the questions.
Quite possibly. Well, you are the host, so you get to do that. But I can see why people have that opinion. I'm just not necessarily sure that I agree with it wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at the stats on that side of things, the discipline side of things, we committed 18 fouls and Sydney committed 20. We ended up with 6 yellow cards. Sydney ended up with 4. I think it was probably more down to the calls that didn't go our way than the ones that did. But looking at the stats, it looked fairly even. But I did notice, I mean, for instance, in the opening 2 minutes, Dobson got pulled up and a foul called on him for a tackle that looked like he got most of the ball on Akon. And then there was another one, I think it was about 30 minutes in. Popovich wrestling Lachie Rose didn't get called. There was another one that was fairly similar, I think, against Taylor. Eli had the ball kicked out through between his legs. I think that was Garuccio, and he went mental over that. But that was the same sort of foul that Dobson got called, and that didn't get called. So, I don't know. There are some instances there, and I'm not saying there was anything untoward or anything going on, but there wasn't the level, and I think that's what people are like. Some people are obviously overblowing it because it's our team, but there seemed to have been a lack of consistency with some of the refereeing decisions.
Yeah, I think that there was, and I definitely agree that looking and remembering back to the game, there were quite a few times where calls would happen where they would play the, replay pretty much straight afterwards, and you go, well, the ball literally changed trajectory because, one of the Jets players got their foot to it, but it's still been called back as a, foul or whatever else. Like, ball's going in one direction, then all of a sudden moves the opposite way. It has to happen from something pushing it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think probably what a lot of people had more of an issue with was the refereeing consistency, and and those stats don't lie. They are the stats that Dave did pass them on and post them up, and they are available for anyone to look up. They are correct. So it is what it is. I'd like to. There was a breakdown that he put somewhere else, I think, or someone might have done, where we had a breakdown of a bunch of different A-League refs, I'm trying to remember who the ref was in the first game, in the first leg. It wasn't Sean Evans, it was someone else. But we didn't really seem to get much out of him either, and that was another talking point. But we thought, maybe being the home crowd behind us, maybe we might get a little bit more of the 50-50s, but it just, didn't seem to work out that way.
It was Daniel Elder, I think.
Daniel Elder. Yeah, you're right. You're probably right. Anyway, like I said, we don't like talking about the refs because it's a cheap talking point to do somewhere to apportion blame. There's not really anyone you can really blame for the game. Really, we were trying to play football. Sydney were happy to press us and try and get turnovers higher up the pitch and counter-attack that way. And it was two styles contrasting. Couldn't be separated after, normal time, extra time, and only the penalties was the only thing. So, I mean, you really can't get any closer than how it went.
No, and it was very much, the biggest thing for us is that we didn't start in the way that we did in the first leg, where it took us a little bit to get going. Yes, there were those couple of calls that you just mentioned that went against us, but it was pretty much end to end from it's about the 18th minute that
Yep.
we started seeing shots on goal and things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was mentioned throughout the game by Ben Homer and Daniel McBreen in commentary, pretty much constantly saying that it was the best attack versus the best defense in the league. And I think that definitely showed. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was a game where it was the first game in a while where I've really sat there and gone, our defensive pairing has, let us down a little bit here today.
Oh, you think they did or they didn't?
I think that Nader in particular probably had one of his lesser games than he's had of late.
Oh, righto. Okay. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit, but Sydney went with an unchanged lineup. We were fortunate enough to have Lachie Rose fit, and he jumped on for the start. Do you think that maybe helped us with our style of play from the get go, rather than the slow start we saw in the first leg?
I think one thing you'll never say about Lachie Rose is that he doesn't put the effort in and doesn't chase everything down. It's just, I don't know if he's got that condition that some people have where one leg's slightly shorter than the other, but he seems to always just miss
Yep.
the
Yep.
ball for what seems to be a pretty clear tap in. I think that was almost the first shot or one of the early shots where Clayton Taylor put it across and he pretty
Yep.
much just had to stick his leg out the right time, but just missed it.
Yep, that
So
was 23rd minute. I had that in my notes. Burgess ended up with a card fairly early on, 20th minute. Do you think that might have maybe? It didn't look like it curbed his game, although maybe he had to play within himself a little bit, especially in a game of that magnitude against his former team. Might not have been as blood and thunder as he could have been, but I think that even so, he still ran his legs off until he was subbed off in the 100th minute. So I don't think it. I don't think it really dropped his effort levels at all.
no, I don't think it had an impact to him at all. I think he was, showing his passion pretty much the whole way throughout the game, and yeah, it was easily up there for man of the match. Saved us from quite a few things as well, and was absolute box to box in the whole game.
Right, so we'll jump into the highlights, and then I'll pick up some other highlights that I'd written down on my notes. Just looking at the Shark highlights on YouTube. And then I'm seeing this is the effort that you were just talking about there with Lachie Rose almost getting to the ball. So yeah, it was Dobson passing it out to Taylor on the left and then flashing it across the face of goal, and Lachie had to have been less than a toe away from getting that ball into the back of that. It was, earlier on in the season during that run where we were scoring for fun, that would have gone in, but first game back after a bit of an injury layoff, maybe took him a little bit longer to shake the rust out.
Yeah, and it was pretty much, obviously it's easy for us to say watching it on TV that it was closer and maybe it was further away than what it was, but that seems to happen quite often. So hopefully, well, obviously it's incredibly clear because it's a done deal that he's not going to be in that position next year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hope when we do look at bringing someone in, that's a part of the game, because I think if we do retain, which obviously there's a pretty big question mark over retaining Clayton Taylor in particular, but obviously Eli and I think Will Dobson are locked in for next season, so they're obviously going to be in their normal positions. And if they're putting balls like that in, or even a Wilmering or whatever, you need someone that can get onto them.
Well, it wasn't even the first time that ball went in this game. So yeah, the only time that ball went in this game. I think I remember at least two other similar opportunities flashed across the face of goal. I'm pretty sure one was in injury time towards the end of the game with Bertoncello, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that wasn't the only near miss of that type that we had chances. We had chances to go like to win this game outright, but it was just that final ball or Sydney's pressing that sort of made it. And this next one was another one as well. On any other day, Clayton might have curled that into that side net rather than just past. That was him getting the ball on the left hand side again and just angling a beautiful curled shot that just curved away on the other side, the wrong side of the post. Again, he's done so well this season. You can't really fault his effort, but if that had gone in,
Yeah, that one was definitely a close one there that I think just either it come off at the end or I don't know, the wind somehow got it, but it definitely, that was a very close one.
Righto. Next one was in. They don't have the time clock on this for some reason. Anyway, there's 3 different replays of the Taylor shot. Oh no, there we go. Let's pop back. 32nd minute, Natta getting caught in possession. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about. A couple of times where he got caught out and we nearly got punished, but Delhi stood up and blocked that shot point blank.
Yes, a lot of turf come up in that one.
Well, it is the rugby league season started, so
big clump of turf come up, and Natta was stuck in it for a little bit there, I think.
Yeah, well, I was mentioned that we did water the ground pretty heavily before the game to help with the speed of play, so that might have made it a bit squelchy underfoot, possibly.
Yes,
talk about turf
stark contrast to when they didn't do it. So
yeah, well, yeah, we're skirting dangerously closer talking about turf again. So we'll move on. We'll move on quickly. So yeah, he did. He just got a bit of a muddle. So I'm just there sitting there watching the second one. Quintal, Kisbay, Garuccio, they all had really good games in their midfield. They were busting a gut. Ocon was doing Ocon things. It'd have been nice if he'd have got that yellow card a little bit earlier, but he did get a yellow card eventually. And it was a game where the goalkeepers sort of stood up. Delhi had the one. We'll talk about the goal in a second, where he spilled it, but he had a couple of other some point bank saves, some punches, some tips over the bar, and Devon Ishmeer's snuffed out quite a number of chances that we had down the other. Both goalkeepers had really good games. Maybe you'd say Devon Ishmeer's maybe just shaded Delhi because of the goal conceded, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I sort of more blame the defence than I do Delhi in that instance. But both goalkeepers had really good games for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely, and Delhi's come on leaps and bounds throughout the season, and that is probably the only part of his game where you sit there and you still go, look, just actually catch the ball, but at the same time too, the defense for the Jets obviously know that is a way that Delhi sort of goes with, using the punch out more so, or so
doesn't try to catch it, just
you
tries to clear it with a punch.
Yeah, so I think if you know that the palming it away is more the way that he's going to go with things, then I think that's where Shaughnessy or Natter have to be in there ready to clear as well. And there was a couple of times where I think it was actually that one where Natter got sort of caught up and was Max Burgess got back to clear it off, and if he didn't clear it off, they would have scored even earlier.
Yeah, this next hot section of the highlights was basically a carbon copy of when Stammer scored last week. Just sort of seems to have Natter's measure, barged him out of the way, knocked him over, and he's clear through on goal. And luckily, Delhi was able to get in there and snuff the chance out. But that sort of highlights your point about Natter maybe not having his best game in a Jet shirt.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not anything to do with it's sort of come out since that there's a Italian team or something like that looking at him. And
Yeah, Serie B team, Cesena. I think we mentioned it last week. I'm not sure, but it's the team Ashley Cole's currently coaching over in Italy.
yeah, so I don't think that would be the kind of thing that would be distracting him in a game like that. I think it was probably just got to give Sydney. They have a pretty cracking front line, so yeah.
The best
trying to keep up
the best
with
that
them
money
and everything else.
the best that money can buy.
Yes, well, definitely up there, that's for sure.
Yep. And look, that Ocon kid, 17 years old, he's going to have a big future if the last two games I've seen him in is anything to go by. He bossed Woolmering all game last week, and this week he didn't get as much joy out of Woolmering this time around, but he was certainly dangerous. And look, he was centre on, had a crack from outside the box. Delhi punched it away, but it unfortunately fell straight to Kispe, and he converted the chance into the net.
Yeah, which when I watched that in the moment, I thought, oh, that was very easy and straightforward, and you're sort of sitting there, doing the Delhi, you could have caught that, but at the same time too, do you try and bat it away and hope that it falls? Like, that was one of those situations where it just obviously fell off the hands straight into his path, and all he had to do was, guide it in. If Delhi's hands are bent slightly further back, it might change the trajectory and he misses it altogether. So it's just one of those unfortunate things that happens in football.
Well, I mean, I've paused the video back where Delhi's palmed it and Kispe's got it, and I'm looking at the positioning of all our defenders, and they're all on the right hand side. Like nobody's even seen Kispe ghosting in on the left. Like what's happening here? Why? Like there's like I can see Shaughnessy. Who's that one? That is 22. That Bertolicio. So look, there's a couple of like Wilmering, Bertolicio, and Shaughnessy are sort of all in the middle. There's three Sydney FC players beside them, but Kispe sort of ghosted in on the left hand or our right hand side, their left, with no defender within Kui. So when Delhi palms the ball away, there's no chance of a Jets defender getting to the ball to clear it. So like maybe like it's possibly not great from Delhi to palm it straight to an opposition player, but surely our defence should be marking better than that. The one time they've fallen asleep, that player's ghosted in and been able to put the ball away with no Jets defender within 5 metres of him.
Well, but even that earlier one where Nada got all tied up, for Max Burgess to have to come back and clear it off, you sort of do wonder where was Shaughnessy and Bertolicio at a minimum in that kind of situation. I know Shaughnessy, you're not necessarily banking on him getting back quickly and all that sort of stuff, but nothing wrong with the pace of Bertolicio, let me assure you.
No, but he's also the senior player in the defence. He should have his eyes open and know where everybody is and be directing traffic. That's what he's there. That's what he's there for. And I mean, our defence has been a lot better in since the beginning of the year. We've sort of dropped our goal conceding by 60-70% for the most part, but we do on occasion concede this type of goal where the defence either is set up in a different way or where someone's not paying attention and we end up conceding a goal. And in this instance, this is why Sydney went ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly why they went ahead, because they scored a goal before we did. So it's cracking analysis there.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, I think it was just one of those situations that fell perfectly for him, and in the goal it went, and it was about 8 minutes later that we got it back.
There's a reason why I'm not getting any job offers from Paramount Plus. Right, so moving on from that,
I don't think anyone gets job offers from Paramount Plus. I think they start their own contracting solo contractor thing, and then they get employed as a contractor. But anyway,
Yeah. Okay. You're probably right. Yeah, I haven't spoken to Ben Homer about his employment contract situation, but yeah. Anyway, so Stammer has another headed chance at the ball floated in from Garuccio. Good ball in actually, straight onto his head. But Delhi was awake to that. You're not going to beat him that way.
no.
And oh, geez, there's a whole lot of the game that they just cut out there. That went from that. They cut out the entirety of the second half, except for when Eli scored in the 95th minute on this highlights package. Yeah, that's a bit weird. So yeah, I was basically going to sum up the first half. I had it written down here. Look, yeah, did really well in the first half. It was pretty even, except for on the scoreboard. Or actually, no, there was one slight point of contention before half time. Did you see the Stamatopoulos stomp on Bayless's wrist just before halftime break?
I did. I didn't really see what everyone else was seeing. I thought it was laying on the ground, sort of moving around, and it didn't look to me like he deliberately tried to do it.
Yep.
But yeah,
it was a flashpoint. I needed to ask the question. Yeah, I agree. I didn't see there was any maliciousness in it at all. It was an accidental. It was obviously it was going to be painful for Bayless with a wrist that was already wrapped in tape. So I'm assuming it was sore from something else already. But yeah, probably last week. But anyway,
yeah, and you've seen that in world football before, where it's been very intentional. I am intending to hurt you.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stamping. Involved.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, just ticking off. So yeah, obviously the goal was in the second half. We went in halftime 0-0. So Taylor across the face of goal in 71st minute again. But that's what I said about Burton Cello. Another one of Paul Ocon's many professional fouls. There was a foul on Bert Alicio that didn't get him a card. Only do you remember that in the 74th minute? Burton Cello got the ball, was away, and Ocon cut him down, and we only got the free kick, and there was no card.
Yes, I do remember that one. I remember at the time, screaming boo earns at the TV.
Yep. He didn't end up getting his card until the 81st minute, but yeah, there was a couple of opportunities before that where he could have got one. 78th minute was the pinball in the box with ending with Rose sliding in on Devonish Mears, which he was entitled to do, but started a bit of a melee in the box with people pushing and shoving each other. And Lachie ended up with a yellow card from that. I don't really see why he got carded, because he was perfectly entitled to go for the ball. He was sliding when the ball was on the ground before Devonish Mears got to it. So yeah, I don't know why that was a yellow card, but maybe because it was judged as dangerous play. But yeah, anyway, that was something interesting.
Well, and from memory, that was where Maxi Burgess got into a bit of push and shove, and he was probably lucky to escape not getting anything further, which would have obviously been a second yellow, I think, by that point.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, Lachie ended up getting subbed straight after that for Gibson. How did you see Gibson's game when he came on?
He had a few good opportunities, but at the end of the day, it's more, service for him and actually getting the ball to him.
The another flashpoint before the goal, 90th minute, so just before injury time started. I've got written down here, Pat Wood is a massive sook, or was Delhi a lucky boy? Do you remember the obviously Delhi went in for the ball. Pat Wood was being a knob. Delhi pushed him out of the way, and Pat Wood went down like he'd been clocked in the jaw, which he sort of kind of had, but not really.
Yeah, well, I'd say that would have been a thing of, Delhi definitely pushed him with intent. But yeah, as you said, Pat Knob went down pretty, he dropped pretty easily and started, rolling around for 10 minutes that he'd been punched. And it was like, I think even Delhi, if he was going to punch you, you'd feel it.
Yeah.
So,
he went down like a lump of. It was weird, but yeah. So that looked a little bit silly. even McBreen was saying, just get up and get on with it, mate. You're not doing yourself any favors. And then I don't know what it was like for you, but I was literally bouncing off the walls of a grader when this goal went in. It was limbs, scenes, hashtag, etc. As the ball went out to Wilmering, crossed it in. Eli hit it on the volley. Absolutely super finish, and tied the game up with literally seconds to spare. And many people, including commentators and players, have said that was probably the loudest they've ever heard a crowd in Australia. It was absolutely insane, the reaction to that goal.
yeah, and if anyone was going to do it in this season, it was going to be Eli Adams.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, the fact that he was able to do that, it started to feel like that whole, and obviously we went into extra time, but it was kind of getting that vibe of what I feel happens quite a lot in Jets games where you just wish there was another couple of extra minutes and perhaps we'd win in regulation time and off we'd go. But yeah, cracking goal and one that'll be talked about, and I actually think was better than the McGree Scorpion kick.
Oh, that was literally going to be my next question. Which do you rank higher, that one or the Scorpion kick? Obviously, you've cast your vote.
This is going to sound really like, what are you on? But I actually think that there was more skill in what Eli Adams did than what McGree did.
Oh, no, McGree, there's no way McGree meant to do that. That was like the flukiest goal that ever fluked.
Yeah. Whereas if Eli actually, you could see him stop and go, this is going to come through and this is going to bounce exactly here and I'm just going to hit it. And look, he may have hit it and hoped for the best, but he definitely, you could see that he was calculating how to do it as it was happening.
All right, well, here's a brain teaser, a hair curler for you. Would you rank this goal above the Nicky Carr goal versus Adelaide?
Yeah, I would.
You would?
Yep.
Pretty similar crowd reactions. I'm pretty sure that. When was that? Was that season 2 or season 1? Just trying to remember. No, it's got to be season 2. It's got to be season 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd be season 2. But I'm just glad that Eli's contracted for, I believe, at least the next season.
He is.
I think he expires 2027.
Yep, he is.
And
problem is, I think there's going to be some offers come in for him, and it's going to be an interesting question as to whether we take them or not.
Yeah, well, and I think it'll definitely be. I think we spoke about it in the last episode where Millsy did the podcast with
Michael
Caine and said about him when he got the offer to go to Crystal Palace, and Ange said, no, I need you to stay because of what we're building. And then Ange left a couple of weeks later.
For the Socceroos.
I wonder if, not that Millsy's going to the Socceroos, but I wonder if it would be a similar thing where he would turn around or more so not hold anyone back because of, the fact that he wants to keep them in the team.
Did we talk about that during the recording or afterwards? I can't remember whether that was actually part of the recording or not.
Look, it doesn't involve turf, so we probably talked about it afterwards.
You're probably right. Even though we're not talking about turf, there's a lot of mentions of turf in this episode, so I think turf's going to have to be in the title somewhere. Look, so one of the best goals and one of the best atmospheres I think we've seen. And then you get into extra time. Look, there was a couple of half chances and some chances for each team. Gibson had a strong header 3 minutes in, but that was straight at Devonish Mears. Max Burgess subbed off for the 100th minute. He absolutely ran himself into the ground. Garuccio goes mental when he gets a foul call on him when he tackled the ball through Eli's legs. That was the one I was referring to earlier. Wood finally gets a yellow card for being a pain in the backside around Delhi.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get my rest of these highlights up. So let's just replay that goal about 4 or 5 more times. Nope. Okay, it goes on to extra time. Yep, that was the header for Ben Gibson. All it just needs to go is anywhere the goalkeeper isn't, and that goes in. But young striker, it's probably a reason why he's playing here and not in Europe. Eli as a screamer from outside the box, and unfortunately just goes over. And then they immediately skip to the penalties, which we'll get to in a minute. But we had. I mean, there was a couple of close chances for both of us, I think, in both periods of extra time. But it was, didn't really. There wasn't sort of anything definitive that occurred in extra time before it went to penalties, and there wasn't even any injury time in extra time before he blew full time and we went to a penalty shootout. So how did you see extra time?
Yeah, it didn't really seem to, well, obviously, but it didn't really seem to eventuate to anything. We just felt like gone through the motions and they'd played the extra time and then they were left to see what was going to be the next thing. So, and I must say that when we went to penalties, I really thought that maybe it would be something that we might be able to just twist it from things there and get a result, but it wasn't meant to be.
Well, we did have a couple of people that have been subbed off that would have been penalty takers, which was, I mean, you've got to play the game as it unfolds. So, but having players like, Lachie Rose, Max Burgess on the bench could have been an opportunity for them to maybe convert. But look, I'm of the opinion, and going back to the extra time period, I didn't really see it as necessarily going through the motions. I was just seeing we were probably playing within ourselves a little bit because we didn't want to make a mistake that led to them scoring a goal that would end the game for us. I think that I don't think we were playing for penalties, but we were definitely playing a little bit more conservatively in extra time to make sure that we were tight. We were defensive. We were still playing the ball around and we were still passing, but we weren't pushing the boundaries. We were playing, but we weren't. It wasn't heavy metal. It was, classical music. if you want to attach that to it. But I didn't see that was necessarily going through the motions per se. But I think both teams were trying not to concede that goal that would mean penalties weren't necessary. I think that was more that was the reason why that sort of extra time unfolded the way it did.
No, and I would agree with that, but I also think too, from the man management side of things, with, as you said, taking, people that you would think would be rusted on penalty takers off. At that point too, Millsy's also got half the brain looking at, what does recovery week look like and being back there a week later. So I can definitely see why you'd be making that decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the players that got subbed off. You had Dobson. Dobson was subbed off. Burgess was subbed off. Bayliss was subbed off. Taylor was subbed off. Rose was subbed off.
Yeah.
So any one of those would have been if they'd have been on the pitch, would have been on that list to take a penalty. So, look, and that's you can only play the game as it unfolds. And then you get to a penalty shootout, and I was. Look, it was gutting at the time, but penalty shootouts are a lottery. It's a 50-50 shot. And unfortunately, the luck wasn't with us in this occasion. Unfortunately, both Bertoncello and Grozos missed their penalties, or they hit them, but Devon Ishmeers saved them. The keeper's going to guess one way or the other, and Devon Ishmeers was on his game. And we were able to save, Delhi was able to save Lolly's first kick, but unfortunately he wasn't able to save the other ones, and that's the way penalty shootouts go sometimes. You can't, yeah. The boys were devastated at the end. Grozos and Bertoncello especially. I did see the post game vision of Kisnorbo wrapping an arm around him and consoling them both, which was really good to see, and getting plenty of support from their teammates as well. But yeah, that it sucks to be the players that miss in a penalty shootout.
Yeah, and look, one thing you can't ignore is that Devon Ishmeers has been strong all season, and there was a lot of comments around,
Absolutely.
you know, he should have been even at least just, the third choice keeper or whatever for the Socceroos squad as that person that you take for the experience and everything because he's clearly got a bright future ahead.
I think he
Absolutely.
can still get picked, can't he? I'm pretty sure he can still get picked.
Yeah,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
the
they haven't.
vibe was that I think the vibe is that he probably won't, but yeah, I haven't really heard too much about the Socceroos side of things and what they're talking about. So, um, but the other thing is, as you said, I did see there and thought it was really great that Kisnorbo pretty much beelined for Bertoncello in particular as a younger player, and also listening to the uh, press conference from Millsy, he got pretty not defensive because I don't think he needed to defend Xavier, but he pretty much straight away said like, you know, Xavier has a long future in our team, and I don't hold anything against him for missing that and whatever else. So yeah, I think one thing, don't sort of heap shit on any of Millsy's team because he will come after you.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely not. He also did say as well that this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. So he's not planning. Well, by the sounds of it, he's not planning going anywhere. So yeah, the rebuild will probably start next week after they've had a week off to lick their wounds and sort of wind down after the game. I don't know how many of
one
them are going to be watching the grand final.
Yeah, well, it's like a 6 p.m. kickoff, so they can watch it and then go to bed still early because of the time difference in New
I
Zealand.
think
But
it's even earlier than that. I think it's
the
like 4:10. I'm pretty sure
very,
it's 4:10.
you wanna fight me on it? Let's see.
No, no, no.
Um, uh, all right, so ladies and gentlemen, the grand final of the Isuzu A League is going to be played at Go Media Stadium on Saturday, the 23rd of May at 6:10
You're
p.m.
right. Yep,
on Paramount Plus and 10.
yep. 8:10 local time. So yeah. So look,
Yeah.
an evening game. Are you going to be watching
Neither of
it?
those are 410, that's for sure. But anyway, um,
You going to be
um,
watching it? They're both very
it
physical
doesn't.
teams. They'll probably kick 10 shades of shit out of each other.
Yeah, look, I'll watch it because I'll probably have nothing else to do at 6:10 on a Saturday night. But also too, I just don't see them as either of them as a team that I can really get behind and support.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, first time. I think they said it was the first time that one of the teams that didn't finish first or second aren't playing in the grand final.
Yeah,
I think they said it was. Yeah, it
yeah, it's
was.
the first time where one of the teams finishing in the top two isn't in the grand final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
And apparently, yeah,
but
it also dashed our hopes of getting the domestic treble, which hadn't been done since Melbourne Knights back in the
yeah,
90s, I believe.
well, we might go and do that next year and get the Asian Champions League as well.
It'd be lovely. Be lovely for a
Yeah.
four-peat. What was your point? You were going to say something before and I cut you off.
I yeah, I was just gonna say, one thing I've noticed in all of Millsy's press conferences since, starting to have the success and everyone asking him like, is this gonna be, typical Jets where we have a really good season and then the coach goes and we have a massive overhaul of the squad and all that sort of stuff. He seems to constantly come back to the fact that his family have allowed him to go and take this opportunity. So therefore, when he goes elsewhere, it has to be that it is a really good opportunity. He's not interested in, you know, um, again, I don't know if we spoke about this in the recording or afterwards, but he was asked on the Michael Caine podcast that was he, if say an Ange Postecoglou went back to Spurs and offered him a assistant role at Spurs, would he take it? And he said no incredibly quickly, because it was I know what I want, and
Yeah,
I
that's the way to.
currently have what I want here.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be going elsewhere, it needs to be a genuine upgrade for my career. Because, and look, I imagine he has a pretty good relationship as far as things go with the Morris Passettos of the world and whatever, where if he turns around and says, "Hey, look, I've got to go and be with the family in Adelaide for the week," as long as it's not going to have a monumental impact on the team, I don't think anyone's stepping in his way from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did talk about this on the recording because I do remember I think we talked about Nick Stavroulakis as well and,
Yeah,
possibly grooming them to take over. So, yeah, I think we did talk about it. But anyway,
yeah.
that we'll probably get into more of that during our season review episode, which we will probably be scheduling in the next couple of weeks. We'll wait for the grand final to be done and all that sort of stuff to be finished, and we'll try and line up a bunch of us to meet up somewhere where we can record live and have a nice lunch, and then talk about the season that was. And then we'll get into things like, what's going to is Millsy definitely going to stay? How many players are we going to lose, et cetera, et cetera. We can get into all that, talk about who's had a good season, who's had a crap season. Before we put a pin in the grand final, in the semi-final, did you have a man of the match?
Has to be Maxi Burgess for me. And a good friend of mine took her, or has been taking her daughter to pretty much every game this season. And every game, her daughter waits for Max to come over and sign things and whatever else. And he actually acknowledged that and took his boots off and gave her a signed pair of boots for the final game. So
Oh,
he's a good guy, that's for sure.
he absolutely is. I'm going to go for Eli Adams, basically, due to that goal.
Yeah, look,
Yeah,
I can see why you did that. The only reason I didn't do that was, one, I wanted you to, and the other thing was that I think there was a lot of sort of unseen and very much seen, but more unseen things that Max did in that game that kept us in that game.
yep. Actually, there was one thing I meant to mention before we stopped talking about this game. There was a couple of social media posts and a Herald article about a little bit of crowd trouble that took place. Apparently, a couple of
Yeah, apparently
Sydney
there's a
FC
golf
morons.
ball.
Yes. I actually know what happened with this because a good mate of mine from work is actually, his son was actually the one that got hit by one of them. So, fingers crossed it's not going to put him off coming back to the Jets, although at the moment he's not keen to return. But yeah, I'm just hoping that I was hoping to be able to have a chat with Morris about it. But hopefully the club has already sort of had a chat to them and hopefully tried to entice them back for next year. But that's sort of really disappointing. And look, you're never going to be able to get rid of every single idiot from a crowd of 25,000 people. But I mean, come on, going to a game with golf balls in your pocket so you can throw, like, you're only going there, you're only taking those things in for one reason, and that's to be a dickhead with them.
Yeah,
So, like, seriously, I thought those days were sort of over and done with. Like, you're acting like the RBB now, you bunch of morons. And I did notice that another bloke that I know who's a longtime member of the Cove was posting about the Cove being pelted by cans from the corporate level above them, which seems to be apparently, according to several agreeing Mariners supporters and maybe one or two Western Sydney supporters as well, who posted on the same social media post. Not the first time it's happened. So I don't know whether the club are aware of that, but I know Morris does listen. So look, and according to that Herald article, the missiles weren't coming just from our level; they were going from the away bay up into that level, because there was a photo of a lady who got cracked by a beer can. I didn't think we sold beer cans at the stadium. I thought they all got poured into glass, into plastic cups.
No, they definitely do cans. I think it was part of that whole when they reintroduced
Full
like
strength.
full strength beers and everything.
Right.
But the thing is, I've always said, even from the time when I used to work in the hospitality side of things, they would do cans instead of bottles, and I was like, I could cause as much damage with a
Well, just as
full
much.
can.
Yeah.
Um, but with the look, if there's people from the corporate side of things that are causing problems with you know other fans, then as far as I'm concerned, the corporate relations side of things at the Jets should just say thanks but no thanks. And I'm sure after the season we've had, they'd have no trouble flogging a box off to someone else, and just wouldn't even bother taking the money from people if they're, you know. And the thing is, with a lot of those corporate side of things, having been in that space quite a bit, usually you'll get the person that runs the business or whatever that's actually like the sponsor or has got the corporate package for the night,
Yeah.
and then
He
they'll
just hands them
invite
out.
a
Yeah.
few people that it's a whole new world to them,
Yeah.
and they're just absolute flogs.
Yep, yep, yep.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's similar to
so
in the mining industry where the knights give corporate tickets to some of the Glencore pits. So I
yeah,
know that a couple of times a season they put a post out for our work saying, "Oh, does anybody want to go to such and such game? We've got some Knights tickets in a box." And people put their hands up and it's first in, first serve. But yeah, they might not necessarily, people being offered the same thing for a Jets game might, they're just going for a piss up. They've got no necessarily a connection to what's going on. They're just there for a good night and a good time. And if that involves pelting cans down at the away fans, which is stupid in and of itself, they don't care. Just like idiots from that particular bay bringing in pocketfuls of golf balls to throw at people, and I don't know why. It probably wouldn't have made much difference, but usually there is some sort of separation between the away bay and the bay next to it. There wasn't in
yeah,
this game. It was literally bay 9, an aisle, bay 10. That's where the cove started. So yeah, that was a bit of a snafu, I think, from the
yeah,
FA or the APL not segregating the bays a little bit more. Like, I understand they wanted to maximise the amount of tickets they sold for the game, but have a little bit of common sense, make it a little bit more difficult, and it's going to be a lot more visible from a security standpoint. Even though from anecdotal evidence is saying that there wasn't a great deal of security around the away fans anyway until after the golf ball incident, which didn't happen until Eli scored apparently.
yeah,
That's when the security came in. But you should have security not overbearing. Like, we've been there before. We don't need that. You just need people keeping the peace. That's all it needs to be. But you're going to be a lot more conspicuous throwing a golf ball, halfway across a bay rather than throwing it at the person next to you, which is a lot easier to get away with. And it seems that unfortunately they've been able to get away with it. I don't know, not sure what the CCTV's like in the ground. I'm sure that the stadium's going to be looking at that over the next couple of days, and the club as well, because from what I know, the mate of mine's been in contact with the Jets and Sydney to complain about the incident. So hopefully something comes of that. But yeah, I'm just hoping that his young fella is not turned off the game altogether, because he's been so excited coming to every game this year. And his favourite player is Lachie Rose. He wanted to meet Lachie Rose before he left. Hopefully that can be organised. But yeah, he was so excited and was so engaged with the Jets. And then goes to this game, and unfortunately, 5 seconds and his whole world's changed because of the actions of an idiot or several idiots, as depending on what the evidence shows. But yeah, it's
yeah.
frustrating. It's frustrating to have happened.
All right, and look, if it's something as like that that is gone to every game and then had a experience like this that's turned it off. Like, Morris, whack him in the Legends Lounge or something like that. Let's get it sorted. Like, it's really not that hard. It's,
Yeah,
an email for you.
Yeah, but then again, it's a question of whether the kid's even interested in taking it up, because at the moment it doesn't sound like he is. So yeah, that's let's just hope. Maybe we can see if we can. I'll see if I can twist Morris's arm to get him possibly trying to say good day to him. Apparently, he did send him a video message, but if we can get him to meet in person before he buggers off to Scotland, that'd probably help him out.
Yeah.
Now, only other piece of business I saw that's come out in the last 24 hours, or come out today actually, but 24 hours when everybody listens to this podcast, was news finally filtered through from the FA about Heidelberg's ineligibility to play in the ACL2 competition. AFC have basically turned around and said, no, they don't qualify, and the spot in the ACL2 will end up going to Melbourne Victory, and I'm sure everybody's happy about that.
Yeah, look, I think that's definitely going to change a bit of the view of things on NPL teams and what they do in the Australia Cup. Because did I see somewhere that it doesn't even necessarily guarantee if they win it?
No, I think that's the only circumstance in which it does mean that they can. They have to have won the domestic cup competition.
Right.
But that's the reason why they're going to be appealing it, and that's the reason why, because the winner has qualified for the elite competition. So that's they're going to appeal the decision, or they're going to file notice of intention to appeal based on that argument. So the team that actually won it has now qualified for the other competition. So there's nothing in the rules that say it shouldn't drop down to the runner up.
And I don't get the politics of it and whatever else, but I feel like it should come down to each confederation or whatever is, you get these spots and it's up to them who they put in.
Yeah. And it doesn't even, and I'm fairly certain it doesn't even come down to, because I'm sure they would have had a ground lined up that would have satisfied all the criteria for broadcast and everything like that. I'm guessing, reading between the lines, it's purely down to the fact that they're a second division team that didn't win the domestic cup comp.
Yeah,
that's the only reason they've been disallowed.
Absolutely, and if that's the case, then I feel like they need to just get over it and do what they should be doing.
Well, the rules need to be clarified a little further, because that it's not written into the rules what happens when that spot is, there's the team qualifies through another avenue. They've qualified for 2 spots. Obviously, they're going to take the highest spot. It needs to be clarified what happens to the other one. So yeah. But yeah, the rule that they're sticking to, apparently the AFC, is that the team qualifying for the any Asian Champions League competition, whether it's the elite tier or the second tier, has to be finished in the top 50% of the top flight. So they would need to be finishing in the top half of the table in the A League for them to qualify. But again, what's going to be the incentive for all these lower tier teams to play the cup competition? They thought they were going to get able to be qualified for Asia at some point, and now that's apparently been taken away. They will actually have to go through and win it for it. And even then, is that clause going to disqualify them from competing still, even if they win it? There's a bit of ambiguity around it, I think.
Yeah, well, also too, imagine a Heidelberg goes off and invest whatever they need to invest into their home ground to be able to, host those kind of matches in the future, because they're going, oh, well, we've gotten close to qualifying or whatever. And then they turn around and say, oh, no, actually, it's not going to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giant waste of money that they don't have, because, they're a lower league team. But yeah.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
I mean, I'm imagining all our games will still be, McDonald Jones and whatever else, and probably only 8 or 9,000 people for a Tuesday night or whatever. But hopefully that's not the case, and momentum is there, and we enjoy getting more football matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll definitely be McDonald Jones Stadium because that's the only stadium that will qualify for lighting and broadcast and available corporate and all that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, Heidelberg would have been able to, if they had to, would have been able to hire Amy Park and just play the games at Amy Park. But yeah, we'll definitely be playing them at McDonald Jones, and we'll obviously have a vastly different team when that comes around, due to the I think everyone's only just realised the number of players that are coming off contract at the end of now that the season's ended, coming off contract at the end of June. So there's a little bit of hand-wringing going on at the moment as to how many players we might be leaving. But yeah, we'll have a bit more clarity around that in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll have clarity by the time we come back for the season review episode, which again I'm going to try and get a bunch of people to attend so that we have more than just me and Andy talking about turf or me and Matt talking about other things. But yeah, we'll try and get a bunch of us together and have a real go of it. We didn't end up doing it last season for one reason or another. Things had we weren't able to organise it, but yeah, the intention and the commitment is to try and definitely get a season review episode done in the next couple of weeks. So keep your ears out for that, mate. Have you got any other news we need to talk about, or is that? I think we've pretty much covered everything that we can think of.
Yeah, I saw something about that the FA's cutting a whole bunch of staff, but I didn't know they had staff still left. So 20% of their headcount or something to try and save money.
Really?
But
I
yeah,
thought
just
they'd
saw that on.
I thought they'd already cut all the stuff they were going to cut.
Yeah, so
I did
don't know,
notice.
but
I did notice that there was an alignment document released with the APL and the FA apparently pledging to work closer together in the future and be a lot more aligned on issues around football. So that's heartening to hear.
yeah, imagine being the guy that, what did you do today? Put together the alignment document.
Oh, that's just I don't remember what they actually called it, but yeah, that was the gist of it. They're going to be more aligned when it comes to dealing with matters and their relationship with each other. So yeah, we'll see how well that ends up.
Yeah, well, good on you,
Yep.
Chief Alignment Officer. Um,
It's probably the guy that they also sacked this week.
yeah.
Yep. Righto. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it, mate. Thank you very much for jumping on and reviewing a game that neither of us went to, but both enjoyed, except for the final 2 minutes.
Oh, mate, I still enjoyed the final 2 minutes. It just, it was a bit of a roller coaster there. But look, at the end of the day, all things aside, congratulations and well done to, Millsy and the entire squad there. The back office and Morris and the admin team to, it's been a season that I think blew everyone's expectations. And that was without some of the, you got to think like we've had this season where we've gone through without the, you know, Badilados of the world, even Oscar Fryer that was, lighting the world on fire before he got injured. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hope that if those two just alone come back half the players they were before they were injured, then things are pretty bright with the future. And I think Badalado is still secured for another season or two.
Yeah, he is.
I think Fryer was on the list of people that um, is up for renewal, but surely that's someone just sitting down and saying this is what we're going to do, because
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be blessed with other options after being injured for the year. Sure, he might want a little bit extra money and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
it'd be a fairly low bargaining position, so
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty easy to get it done.
It'd probably just be a
But
contract extension on similar terms, I'd say, just to see how the season goes for him.
well, was he a scholarship player though?
I don't know, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
don't really know where the whole scholarship thing comes into it versus whatever, but I think the minimum salary is what, 750 a week? Like, you just turn around and say to him, mate, go out there and do a couple of corporate appearances, not for the people that were throwing beer cans at fans, and you'll make that money anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, my thoughts on the season, and I'll say it during the season review episode, but I'll say it here first, is if you wind back 12 months, if you'd have said after, letting Rob Stanton go, that, 12 months time, we would have 2 trophies and be within 2 penalties in a shootout of getting to the grand final, I would have absolutely bitten your arm off for that. Like, it might be disappointing to not be able to get to the grand final, yes, but we are miles ahead of where we thought we'd be in just a space of 12 months. So, yeah, the future is bright. And the big question I've been asking, since the turn of the year, the beginning of the year, was, are we going to be able to make sure this isn't just a flash in the pan? This is a period of sustained growth. And by the sounds of everything coming from the club and from Millsy and from the players that sound like they're sticking around, that's the plan. So, we'll just have to wait and see whether the plan comes to fruition. But hopefully over the next couple of weeks between now and the review, we're going to line up a few interviews with some people in the office and maybe 1 or 2 players if we can organise the time. Just depends on how my and Matt's work commitments are how they break down, but we'll see how we go over the next couple of weeks. We'll try and get some extra episodes before we get to the season review. But mate, Andy, thanks for jumping on, mate, talking about the game, and we will definitely chat in the next couple of or meet up in the next couple of weeks to review the season as a whole.
Absolutely, we will. Looking forward to it as always, and go the Jets.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, everybody, for everything so far this season. Like I said, you will be hearing us again very shortly, but until next time, you can get in contact with us. Go to newcastlefootball.net for all the links on the podcast, for the forums. There's been quite a lot of forum traffic lately, which has been great with the uptick and the fortunes of the team, so jump on there and get involved. You can get in touch with us on social media at Jetstream Newy on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Threads and Blue Sky, or you can send us an email, podcast@newcastlefootball.net. Until next time, Vamos El Jerkos. It's a good thing we didn't have a game to talk about next week. We've already gone over an hour.
It's what we do.
It is what we do. Even with only talking about one game, we still managed to find time to stretch it past an hour.
Yep.